fire them up. That's what we do on the Andrew Gosser Show. We fire them up right here on 103.9 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube, and we are streaming on WYAB.com. So if you can't pick up the 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal, like, share, and subscribe to the channels. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell a Democrat about the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Appreciate that. If you want to be part of the program today, the number is 601 879 0002. Text line is open at 601 879 5060. And the mission here at the Andrew Gosser Show, you know, it is standard. We are here to equip the saints. Who are the saints? Hey, you all are the saints. That's right. Always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason why the hope that is in you, yet do so with gentleness and respect. And ladies and gentlemen, the World Cup is over, and President Trump somehow got himself inserted to the story. I'm not sure he was the main character of the story, but him handing out the medals and him being on stage greeting all the Spanish players taking pictures with the president, the helicopter flyover of Marine One, just absolutely incredible scenes, ladies and gentlemen. And there were so many naysayers out there who were saying that the United States couldn't host a World Cup, that our stadiums weren't conducive to football, i.e. soccer. You had all these English and French pundits just absolutely trashing the United States. And today, they all say, so many of them, not all of them, some of them are so arrogant and boastful, no humility, no dignity, no integrity, no honor. They're sitting there still trashing the United States, but so many more are saying how great of a World Cup it was, how our stadiums are the best. And I'll tell you what, Lincoln Financial Field in Seattle, that place, they probably have to come out with some laws against Lincoln Financial with how loud that stadium gets. Loudest crowd noise ever at Lincoln Financial Field. And it's just a shame that it's in Seattle with that loser mayor over there. But hey, we move. For those of you who never had watched soccer before, I hope that you at least got to see a few matches. I hope you got to see a little bit of it. It's the beautiful game. It's the world's game. And it was a great experience for the United States to host the World Cup. I mean, the years and years and years of programming by the mainstream liberal news media, not just here in America, but all around the world, was completely fractured by YouTube. There were so many positive, glowing reports of how the World Cup did. And they're having a hard time. They're having a hard time actually trying to spin it as a bad World Cup. Director FBI Kash Patel came out with a statement on it, and I just want to read this because, you know, in America, we do have freedoms. We do have the Second Amendment. And most reports are coming out saying that we did a really good job with the World Cup. But there's always those naysayers. And Kash Patel, I thought, had a really interesting point on this. The 2026 FIFA World Cup was the largest sporting event ever in the history of the world. Facts. Shattering previous attendance records by double digits. America, we got it done. Zero major security incidences across our nation while we hosted the equivalent of 78 Super Bowls in 38 days, along with 40 base camps, endless fan zones, and celebrations in nearly every major state. Zero security incidences. That just goes to show you how good our FBI can be when they're actually focusing on the right things. And in the second hour, don't you worry, we're going to definitely talk about how the president's address that wasn't covered by ABC, NBC, and CNN. We're gonna have Mr. Alan Ramsey on the phone or in the studio to talk about it because he's a professional. He understands what we've gotta do, and I wanna get his perspective on it as someone who has audited voter rolls and has that experience, not just in the nation, but here in Mississippi. And I feel it's important that we get these voices on the radio to give them a platform to go ahead and get out there and say what needs to be said. And if you guessed that my computer decided to reboot in the middle of the show, you would be correct. But it doesn't matter. Kash Patel went on to say that they confiscated over 700 drones at these World Cup events. That to me is downright frightening. We keep moving, ladies and gentlemen. We keep moving. President Trump promised the administration would deliver the most safe, secure, and fun environment for FIFA. He stated that by establishing the White House FIFA task force some 16 months ago. And that's what real leaders do. They plan, they look out and forward. They're always leaning forward, trying to anticipate where the problems might be. Dude, they had over 5,000 agents working this, and they were integrating with local and state, federal other law enforcement agencies. It was really just a top-down event. And, I don't really talk about sports too much on the show. I am an Arsenal fan, and soccer is my favorite sport. So I just wanted to go ahead and start the show off with just what a great World Cup it was. It brought a lot of people together who normally wouldn't see eye to eye. And if you go and spend some time on your favorite social media platform looking for positive reviews of America, you can find them. You can find them. And unfortunately, there's so much negativity out there. There's so much anger out there that we don't focus on the good stuff. So I just decided I'd start off the show focusing on some good stuff. I will, of course, repost Brother Kash Patel on my page. And it just goes to show you what a world-class country we really do have. We really do live in the best country in that is the United States of America. And I argue we live in the best state. I think it's really important that we continue to big up Mississippi because for all of the faults that some people out there, some doomsday or black-pilled haters out there wanna say, we are definitely the best. Last thing I wanna say about the World Cup is that, the United States, it wasn't what we wanted, but at the same time, we did get past one knockout stage, which is pretty phenomenal, and we're progressing, and that's all we can do in the United States because soccer is not our major sport. We know that American football, basketball, baseball, hockey, they're all more popular in America than soccer, but hey, we're getting there. We're getting there. When we get back, we're gonna reset, and we're gonna talk about Sonny Holston. We're gonna talk about Lisa Murkowski, and we're gonna talk about the education system and what's going on there, and I'm really excited to tell you about this. This Thursday and Friday show, um, you're gonna wanna get locked in. If you are an educator or if you know somebody who's working in education, you're gonna wanna get locked in because Teacher Therapy has come out with a new 35-minute video, and I've got a lot to say about it. Not only that, the headmistress of Great Britain gave a speech, and we're gonna listen to that 15-minute speech in its entirety, breaking it up into sections, of course, but it's really gonna show you why it's so important to be involved in your local schools. And it comes out and it blasts the boomers, it blasts Gen X, it blasts millennials, and I'm not so sure that she's not onto something. They're rewriting our history, and we're allowing it. It's absolutely frightening to me. I'm not necessarily sure how we can actually stop it, especially when AI is always out there. It's always out there saying stuff that a lot of times isn't true. We'll talk about that too when we get back. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 1039 WYB. We'll be right back. Good morning. Good morning. Computer's on for 3 hours. No reboots. As soon as I start the show, 2 reboots. My goodness gracious. My goodness gracious. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show right here on 1039 WYB. Phone number 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. I will get to those texts here in between the next segment and the break. This is coming from End Wokeness. This came out at the end of the week. And it just goes to show, I just want to continue to point out the hypocrisy of the news media and try to encourage and motivate people to go and see beyond what is being fed in your algorithm, your news feeds, the local local media. And I'll start it with this, that they're trying to hide stuff from us, including the Jackson murder tracker coming from Jackson Jambalaya. 45, 46, 47 murders were reported in this story. But what was really fascinating to me was one of the comments started talking about how WLBT had taken down their homicide tracker. Is the count getting too high? And someone linked it. I can't find a link to the murder tracker on the WLBT website, but I do have the direct link to it. And the 2026 count is actually 49 homicides. We are going at quite the clip. And if I want to go ahead and believe what's being stated on the website, they've taken the main link of the murder tracker off the WLBT website. I looked for about a minute. I'll be truthful with y'all. But when it comes to stuff like this, it just goes to show you they just take away the little things, and the direct link is still there. Someone said it came up as password protected. And this was as of yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. So when I got the story this morning, I was like, ooh, I need to check this out. But here's another way where they try to gaslight us. Listen to Sunny Hostin back in 2017.
I mean, you can't commit so many crimes and think that you are above the law, even if you are the president.
So it really is a celebration of the law.
It's a
Applause light
celebration
came on.
of the law and how it applies to all of us.
So she's right there saying the law applies to all of us. Well, as you know, her son got arrested for trespassing. And a clip came out. You know, the body cams, if I was a police officer, I'd want a body cam. Because we know 99.95% of all police officers are legit and doing the right thing. And no one wants to be recorded. But you almost have to record stuff today because we live in a society where screenshot or it didn't happen, video or it didn't happen. And listen to this. This is the arrest video of Sunny Hostin's son. And it just, I just want you to listen to this because, you know, Sunny's always out there saying how she's an accomplished lawyer, how nobody's above the law. She bashes everybody who doesn't agree with her worldview. And then all of a sudden the shoe drops on the other foot. And now we get this.
It's in my phone if you take off the case.
Tell them your mother is a federal prosecutor.
So tell them that your mother is a federal prosecutor. We're going to start this over again.
It's in my phone if you take off the case.
Tell them your mother is a federal prosecutor.
Yes.
Hey, Mom, how are you? This is Officer Gomez. Your son's fine.
Officer Gomez,
how are you?
This is
Yes,
former
yes.
federal prosecutor.
Okay,
That's
fair
my
enough.
son.
Yeah.
He's a Harvard graduate.
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute. She's sitting there talking about how she's a federal prosecutor. Her son is a Harvard graduate. He's in cuffs. He's by the train tracks. I don't know the full story behind that other than that this was private property and he shouldn't have been there.
He's not a criminal. He has no criminal record, no criminal history. Officer, is that really necessary? This is a kid that doesn't do anything. He's a Harvard graduate and a Yale researcher.
You know, see what she's doing right here? She's trying to use her influence as a prosecutor and as a talk show host to let her know that, hey, maybe my son needs to get a good deal. And more, I'm not saying good deals don't happen, but to go on a show and be out high and mighty and above the commoners, the plebes, the peons, and then trying to flex your influence, I don't agree with it.
He teaches geometry to and punks.
I understand that.
Why would you put something on his record like this?
No, it's...
Can you give him a warning?
I cannot at this point. I have to recognize this.
I'm a former federal prosecutor.
Now, all of a sudden, she's a former federal prosecutor. I thought in the beginning she said she was a prosecutor. See how that works? You see how people try to use and manipulate the system? These cackling hens on The View, terrible. It's why I don't even report on it anymore because it's so biased and so terrible. And ABC is facing a lot of problems, which we're going to get into. ABC, NBC, they've got problems.
Yeah.
He knows he's a Harvard grad who teaches fourth grade geometry to his kids.
God bless.
This is not a kid who's never in trouble. It's an innocent mistake.
And that's the video. I'm curious what you all think about that. The same thing happens right here in Jackson. The same thing happens in Mississippi. And I'm not saying that it doesn't happen on the other side either, by the way. I'm quite certain calls have been made and people are like, okay, we're plead down. We're going to get this taken care of. It's definitely one of those situations where, again, do as I say, not as I do. I really don't want to get into the Save America Act stuff yet. I really want to save that for Alan Ramsey. But there's some stuff out there starting to break. Well, let's do this. Let's go to ABC News, because every once in a while there is something that gets out and the veil comes off, and holy smokes, the next thing you know, ABC News does some real reporting. Listen, this is Jonathan Karl interviewing Senator Warner, Democrat of Virginia, about the Save America Act. We'll just start laying the groundwork for Brother Alan when he gets in.
Now, I understand that you and I think every other Democrat oppose this so-called Save America Act, and there's a lot of reasons that you've put forward. But let me ask you very narrowly on the issue of photo ID, requiring photo ID to register to vote. Is this something that Democrats should get behind?
And I can't believe I'm about to say this, but Jonathan Karl is doing to the Democrat exactly what he does to Republicans with these gotcha politics, which I don't like.
We have 80-some% of Americans, 71% of Democrats say they favor this.
You know what? In Virginia, we have voter ID and photo ID. I got to show my...
That's actually not the case. I mean, I'm a Virginia voter. You don't need to show a photo ID in Virginia. There are a wide range of things you can show for ID.
And look at Jonathan Karl just caught a voting U.S. senator from Virginia in a lie. The U.S. senator doesn't even know what his own voting laws are in his own state. And we are having to fight these battles. This Save America Act stuff is serious business. And this is a Democrat who's trying to play off, oh, well, we already got this invoked. No, we don't. I lived in the Commonwealth of Virginia for 9 years, Naval Air Station Oceana. Great place. I wouldn't want to live there now. I wouldn't want to be there now. It's so dystopian. My kids even moved away from the state. That's how bad it was. Hey, good morning to everybody in the chat. Appreciate it. Let's listen to what the senator has to say. I'm going to back it up just a tad here.
Virginia voter, you don't need to show a photo ID in Virginia. There are a wide range of things you can show for ID, and if you don't show one of those, you can sign an affidavit saying
sign an
attesting.
affidavit,
But so it's not required.
Those become ballots that, if you want to contest later, can be contested. But you do have a variety of documents. But we have
a variety of documents. Gym memberships, video store memberships, whatever type of ID you have. You just, yep, this is me. I'm a U.S. citizen. Is what President Trump and the Republicans asking for, real voter ID, so much to ask? Is it a bridge too far? Talking to these Democrats, you think it would be.
Have voter ID of one form or another.
But should that be a national standard?
And you know what? Nothing there. Should there be a national standard? I say yes. I like Mississippi's law. I like the fact that I can actually challenge IDs if I have to as a poll worker. I've never actually had to really turn anybody away from my polling place the times that I've worked it. I'd love to work it again. Hopefully things go well and I'm back there doing it. Take the day off the radio to go work the polls, but that's how much I believe in it. And I know that we've got people out there who have taken up the call to do that, but we are in such a mess. We are in such a mess because our Senate is not acting appropriately. We can honestly say that the U.S. Congress, the legislative branch of our government, is in complete disarray when it comes to the United States Senate. And personally, I blame the 17th Amendment, where if our states took back control of our U.S. senators, which is what it's supposed to be, the Congress, the House, is the people's house. That's why we get people like Congressman Benny Thompson. The people want him. That's why we get congressmen like Michael Guest. The people want him. But our senators are supposed to be from the Mississippi State House and the Mississippi State Senate, or the Commonwealth of Virginia House of Burges, House of Commoners. Yeah, Virginia's kind of messed up like that. And the more that this gets delayed out, the more and more our election is in peril. And I've got more of this to get into as soon as we get back from this commercial break. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. You're listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Always trying to see the brighter side of life. Mr. Positivity. Yep, that's me. And going to Magnolia Tribune. Athletes in Mississippi are more likely to go pro than the rest of the United States of America. From Jeremy Pitari. According to a study conducted by the Sports Geek, Mississippi athletes have an overall chance of 1 in 1,958 of being added to a professional roster in sports such as the National Football League, the National Basketball Association, Major League Baseball, or Major League Soccer. That's still less than 1/1000th of 1%. And I think this is what's wrong with our society, quite frankly, is that we'll put athletics as a way to get out of a bad situation above everything else. Yet, so many who are going to try to get there think that they can get there, end up not getting there, and end up going back to the same bad things that they were trying to leave. The study shows that Mississippi ranks high in the odds due to an inherent local football culture that follows the sport from high school to college to NFL. The strength of the college football programs at Ole Miss, Mississippi State, go Dogs, as well as the ability for players to train year-round due to favorable weather climate also played a factor, the findings outline. I would just add that, we are all also next to Louisiana and Alabama and Tennessee and Arkansas. So the football culture in the South, we produce some great athletes. But the chance of your overall success, is not good. Whereas if we were focusing on the trades, focusing on areas where we can really go ahead and improve a young athlete's life, be a whole heck of a lot better. Nationally, going pro in the NBA is a bit more difficult. 1 in 36,136 due to smaller rosters and the fact that teams typically recruit taller players. The findings determined the average height of an NBA player is 6'3". So, that's pretty incredible that Mississippi's got that kind of deal going on. But I do not want to go down that road where we're encouraging our youths to go ahead and play sports over getting a career, as a welder, as an electrician, as a truck driver, as a farmer. Yeah, it's a harder life. Athlete's life is really posh and cush. I was watching a video they did on Erling Haaland's daily dinner and food bill. That guy spends almost $600 a day on groceries because he's eating truly clean. Truly clean. And it's tough. And every time you hear that ding, that's just Google being evil. Nolan Wells found dead after July 4th boat trip to be remembered at funeral by Reverend Al Sharpton. As you know, I've steered away from this a little bit, not because I'm not afraid to talk about it, but I want the process to be talked about, and when it's the right time, I will go full West Ham United on this. The investigation into Wells' death remains ongoing. Wells' mother said the family would use the occasion to celebrate the life of their son, who described as a bright light and a sensitive soul. And Clay Edwards reposted something from the Bureau of Justice Statistics this morning. If you didn't listen to the Clay Edwards show, you should have. White on black violent crimes in the United States. Well, 59,778. Black on white crime, 547,948. This is just absolutely insane, ladies and gentlemen. And I think this is the problem that we as a culture really have to start standing up and talking about. And I see you, Dogfish, wanting to know about the investigations and stuff, but I feel it's really important that we have a conversation about this. This just proves the point that our what is reality and what is not reality is being funneled by our devices. How can it be that you have so many more crimes black on white than white on black, yet it makes national news when there's black on white or white on black crime? I argue that there's no such thing as a hate crime. It doesn't matter whether it's a white kid or a black kid that gets killed. It's tragic. It hurts whatever community that it's in. You know? It doesn't matter whether a white woman gets raped or a black woman gets raped. It's rape. It's wrong. It's evil. Child predators. Doesn't matter whether it's a white kid or a black kid. That's a sick person that needs to face the ultimate justice. But we are in such a cycle now where we're looking for the next dopamine hit, where we're thinking, oh, we've got to get this sensationalization going. Which brings me back to the Magnolia Tribune. This is by the Associated Press being run by the Magnolia Tribune. The funeral will be officiated by the Reverend Al Sharpton with a call to justice delivered by the family's lawyer, Ben Crump. I said it last week, and I will firmly say it again. When you have either one of these two men show up to your funeral, it will not be about the celebration and the life. It'll be about the pain and misery, creating instability, creating mayhem and chaos. Meanwhile, the investigation's going on. And I look at the metrics on X of this case. It's not to say that we shouldn't find out what happened to Mr. Nolan Wells. We should. By all accounts, he was a great young man. By all accounts, he was also hanging out with his friends. And by all accounts, he left the boat on his own volition. That's what we know. But all the innuendo, all the coloring of the lines outside the edges, skirting the absolute truth, skirting the absolute reality, not allowing our law enforcement officers to do the same thing. They've already done a independent autopsy, and we haven't really heard too much about that. I won't speculate on why we haven't heard about that. In the meantime, you've had the social justice warriors on X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok go out there and put out their opinions, baseless. And we do have a First Amendment right to say what we want to say. But you also have consequences for that. And the consequences aren't going to be, the consequences are not going to be what you think. The consequences are going to be what our generations moving forward think. And I'm teasing this up for Thursday because the headmistress from England knocks it out of the park. But I need a full hour to do that. And unless something absolutely crazy happens on Thursday, that's what we'll be talking about. Our kids don't have any truth data to what's being posted on this stuff. There are some countries now that want to take social media away from kids under the age of 16. They want to take computers out of the classroom. The data of what social media has done to humanity is just now starting to trickle in. And people are complaining about Gen Z in the classroom. You haven't even seen Gen A yet. They're even worse. Andrew, you shouldn't be talking about youth and children and young teens like that. Look, the reality is that the world is not going to care about whether or not what those kids feel or think. It's can they perform? And these kids aren't performing. And I subscribe and I submit my theory forward to all of you for consideration is that when we have tragic situations like Nolan Xavier Wells of Mississippi, who died hanging out with a bunch of friends, gets turned into something that it wasn't. It stokes up the fire, and we've got to find a way to be able to talk about this because, unfortunately, our history is being rewritten right before our very eyes. Our ability to deductively reason is being pushed right out the window. It's not what really happened. It's just oppressor versus the oppressed versus the oppressor. And the anger that is out there's no way to even talk about the anger. If you bring it up, you're a racist. And I'm just to the point to where I feel that we need to talk about this. We need to have these conversations, and especially in Mississippi. The Sweepy and I were talking about Mississippi and how we feel that Mississippi. First of all, we're never going to leave. We love it here, but there is this lingering demon of oppression that just hovers over the South. And we need to find a way to how we can get over that. You are listening to the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Only in America. Only on the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. Last story before we go to the top of the hour with Alan Ramsey talking about the Save America Act and election fraud and election reform, what we need. Last story I want to talk about is Uncle Elon and SpaceX. You know, they tried to launch their Starship rocket last week and it aborted. And it never ceases to amaze me when all of a sudden I get all these texts coming in from friends of mine, not necessarily in the space industry, outside the space industry, who are like, "Oh, Andy, did you see what happened to SpaceX? Did you hear what happened to Elon Musk? Did you hear what happened to Tesla?" And all of these doomsayers. And I don't want to sound like the old grumpy curmudgeon, but I'm not a instant gratification type of dude. I'm willing to play the long game. Politically, financially, spiritually. I understand that there are gonna be ups and downs. This is coming from CNBC. SpaceX stock has cratered nearly 23% since the company joined the NASDAQ 100. First, it was shot up incredibly by 25% because everybody wanted it. And now it's starting to go down. And people are starting to short the stock. That's where they're buying it high and selling it low. Basically creating nothing out of something. Friday's loss of 5.48% marked the sixth straight losing day that came after Elon Musk's space and artificial intelligence company aborted a test flight for its Starship rocket. Dum, dum, dum. How many times did the space shuttle abort? How many times does the Soyuz rocket from Russia abort? We really can't talk about the Chinese because they never talk about when they're going to launch. They just, after it's successfully launched, they talk about it. If it's unsuccessful, they say that a Long March whatever didn't successfully launch, and they just leave it away. They just kind of talk it down. That's the beautiful thing about America. All of our warts, all of the bad things that happen, you can see it. Well, it used to be that way until AI started erasing the internet and the history. And it goes through all the possible things that could be wrong. Long story short, there were 4 engines that didn't start and 2 engines that were damaged in this test flight program. Andrew, it's been 13 flights. I challenge anybody to go back and look at the history of NASA rocket failures and go see how many hundreds of rockets failed, whether that be NACA, NASA, the Air Force. Hundreds of rocket fails. Meanwhile, no one wants to talk about Falcon 9. Over 450 launches, over 300 recoveries. They've got some rockets that have flown 27 times, 28 times, 38 times. We are living in a great place, ladies and gentlemen. Do not fall for all this negative Nancy news that's out there. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Alan Ramsey's coming up next. talking to that microphone real quick?
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2, testing, testing, 1, 2. Okay.
Good morning, chat. Thankful for everybody who's tuned in. We're about ready to rock and roll in about another minute and a half.
So vulnerable.
Right.
We need to look at
And we are back here at the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB, where we are streaming on Rumble. We are streaming on X. We are streaming on YouTube. We are streaming at WYAB.com. Still, nobody cares about Facebook. So if you can't pick up our 50,000 watt blowtorch of a signal that is 103.9 WYAB, do us a favor. Help us build the station, grow the channels. Like, share, and subscribe. Tell a neighbor, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell a Democrat, maybe even tell a Republican too, that we're here. And the number, if you want to be part of the program today, is 601-879-0002. Text line is open at 601-879-5060. I know that there were some people calling in over the top of the hour break wanting to talk about the Nolan Wells story. But we're not going to do that because, brother, you're here. You are the election integrity guy of Mississippi that I go to. And you've been doing this for a long time. And it just seems to me that yeah, this is brother Alan Ramsey. I'm sorry about that, but I'm just ready to go. We were talking during the break.
I would love to think they all know who I am without introduction, Andrew. But
Yep.
Like you say, even some Republicans I wish would tune in here. Okay.
Yep. But what's your take on what everything's happening right now with this Save America Act?
Well, I'm very encouraged with what's going on. I'm not. I don't see the world through rose-colored glasses, so I don't believe there's some silver bullet that the president is shooting, or we're shooting, or that this situation that's taken us decades to get into cannot be corrected overnight. But finally starting to see progress on all fronts. Okay. For too long, I'm 72 years old, Andrew, and until I was roughly 65 years old, maybe 60, 65, I never thought twice about our election process. I had this sense that so many of us grew up with that, yeah, there's always a little bit of BS and a little bit of cheating here and pulling there. But what I've learned in the last 10 years has just changed my whole world. I mean, I know now what I could have only imagined back then. And I probably couldn't have imagined it. Kind of like one of those things, it's like a Hollywood script, you know, when you look at the absurdity of what our elections have become. And we have got an administration, not just a president, but we do have a president, but an administration who's equally in tune. And we understand that if we don't stand up and take back control of our entire process, that's the foundation our country is built on.
Yep.
Fair elections, okay? You know, as we're going to get into in a few minutes, well, as you know, I'm the director of an organization called Mississippi Fair Elections.
Yep.
And I've been working in this capacity for a few years now. And we're finally beginning to move the ball down the field. For a while there, we were kind of, gain 2 yards, lose 3 yards, gain 4 yards, lose 5 yards.
Yep.
But we're finally starting to move the ball ahead. Now, Mississippi has its election problems, or we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. Now, are we like California? Are we like Pennsylvania? Are we like Nevada? Are we like Minnesota? No, of course not.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't ever want to be there. I don't ever want to be like one of them. We're trying to close the opportunities for manipulation of the system before our system gets overly manipulated here.
And I would just say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Absolutely. In this classic situation.
And if you don't think it's not happening here, there was that lady down in, I believe it was Gulfport or Biloxi, Mississippi, who got arrested and charged and convicted of felony election fraud or voter fraud. There's a difference between the two. Our friend Pete Perry would say, you got to know the difference between the two. I just know they're both felonies and they're both wrong for meddling in our elections.
That is correct. And there's so many ways that you and I could spend your show every day for the next 3 weeks, and I'd never have to revisit a topic. I'd have so many ways to tell you that the elections can be manipulated.
Yep.
When I woke up the morning after the 2020 election and saw what had happened in the course of the night,
the spike, and
I started digging in. Well, since then, every conspiracy theory has proven to be fact, not conspiracy.
Can I play a clip real quick?
You go right ahead.
Listen to this.
It's so vulnerable.
Right.
We need to look at all the voting machines. Every Secretary of State needs to be, assisted in making sure that they are not being hacked and attacked.
I continue to think that our voting machines are too vulnerable.
For researchers have repeatedly demonstrated that ballot recording machines and other voting systems are susceptible to tampering.
Even hackers with limited prior knowledge, tools, and resources are able to breach voting machines in a matter of minutes.
In 2018, electronic voting machines in Georgia and Texas deleted votes for certain candidates or switched votes from one candidate to another.
And this is a video by David Gibson, and I want to give him full credit for it. Democrat,
quite easily.
You could easily hack into them. It makes it
Minnesota
seem like
Senator,
all these states
Democrat.
are doing different things, but in fact, 3 companies are controlling them.
It is worth fighting for integrity in our election system, which means that they are free from interference by a hostile or an unfriendly nation.
Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption.
AI writes the book.
And then, of course, YouTube's going to the commercial there. While that goes, Alan, what are your thoughts on the Democrats changing their tune from 2016 to 2020?
I wish I could point my finger squarely at Democrats and Democrats only, but the hypocrisy across our entire system, that Democrats are the worst of it possibly, but they're only the most obvious part. Yes, I can remember every clip you played there.
Yep.
I've heard numerous times. In the 2016 election,
Russia.
In the 2020, I mean, come on now. This is revisiting old territory just so that we can make fun of them. Let's move ahead, Andrew. Let's I'm hoping if there's anyone out there who's listening to my voice today who is prepared to step on a stage and debate the free fairness of our elections, please call me. Okay. I'll pay for the venue. I'll make all the arrangements. Okay. But come prepared. I'm just going to wake up that morning. I don't even need to do my homework anymore. I can quote this stuff line and verse. And I'm just not going on what I know in the news. Andrew, I can take right now the Mississippi voter roll that I get a fresh copy of every week from the Secretary of State's office. I can go to any county in the state of Mississippi and I can show you a host of anomalies.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I call them anomalies. To call them fraud would be presupposing that these anomalies are intentional and fraud. But I can show you anomalies that shouldn't exist, that should not be there, names that are in there twice, dates that don't add up, people who moved out of our state long time ago, dead people, 140-year-old people still voting, multiple registrations from different addresses that are just frankly impossible. Okay. I live and breathe this stuff anymore.
Yep.
And so I don't question it. I'm trying to deal with it. Mississippi Fair Elections of which I'm part of the leadership team. I guess, I guess I could call myself the director, but I'd rather call myself part of a team. Okay.
Yep.
I don't want to run things. I want to be a part of a group of people working together to do something. But we have come up with a strategy that we believe is going to yield results. Now, results don't turn up in the short term like you'd like them to. They take a little longer. But we've come up with a program of empowering our election commissioners here in the state of Mississippi. Okay. Now, election commissioners, people think of that as a lowly little office. Every county's got 5 of them. And mostly they're jobs that go to some retired folks who got nothing else to do, maybe want health insurance that they get offered by the county for working 1 or 2 days a week, or maybe it's just a feather in their cap, but it's something to do. Well, no, folks, to me, our election commissioners are the most important single people in the state of Mississippi, our most important elected officials over the governor, the lieutenant governor, all of our congressmen and our senators and representatives, because these are the people who guard the foundation of our democracy. It's their job to maintain free, fair, open elections above reproach, above question. And with even before the technology that we've now got at our fingertips, that makes things that used to take days and weeks to figure out, I can figure out in seconds, milliseconds sometimes.
You know, that's a great point. I want to jump in here because when I was doing running campaigns and elections and stuff, I would always get the voter file and I'd pay the money and I'd go through it. And the first thing I'd do is I'd sort it by state. And I went through voter files in Mississippi where I found people from Connecticut voting, New Jersey, Texas, California, Colorado, and Michigan. And those are just the ones that I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And these people are voting. And
it is amazing what you find when you get into them. But the point I'm trying to make here is our election commissioners are the most important elected officials we've got, bar none. Because without them doing the job they're supposed to be doing, then every result that comes along is suspect. And when you get down to the local level, one vote can change a whole outcome. A sheriff, a circuit clerk,
an alderman,
a
mayor.
One vote. So if there is one bad vote manipulated in the course of an election, it can change the whole. It's kind of like in the science fiction, we call it a timeline. It becomes a whole different timeline now because this person got in instead of that person, and the whole end result changes because someone intentionally or unintentionally didn't do the job that needed to be done to ensure the integrity of my vote, your vote, his own votes for that matter. And so we have come up with a program. I could spend all day trying to get on the airwaves here and convert one or two people who might hear us in this 50,000 watt range to come help us.
It's about 500,000 people.
There you go. Hey, if I could find 5 good ones, we could win the battle, okay? But if we've determined that by focusing the resources, the limited resources that we have on the commissioners and helping them do their job. It's shameful, Andrew, that we have 410 elected election commissioners in this state and that they have so little support and resource coming to them from the Secretary of State's office or even their own association who should be doing the things that we, a handful of citizens, are doing.
Yep. Well, let's take our first break because I want to talk about this. I want to make sure that, and I also want to make sure that we tie it into the Save America Act and we can talk about Senator Roger Wicker and Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith.
I would love to.
And I take you make more friends extending the hand than taking the billy club over the head, but every once in a while the stick needs to be smacked. And
got to do what you got to do.
You are listening to Alan Ramsey and Andrew Gosser on the Andrew Gosser Show. This is 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. And we are back on the Andrew Gosser Show, 1039 WYAB, moving and grooving. I got Brother Alan Ramsey with me. And we are talking election integrity. Kind of in the background is the Save America Act, because that has to happen. That'll direct a lot of the downward pressure, which we need, but we also need it from the ground up. And during the break, Brother Dogfish asked a question: how can I verify that both my deceased parents have been removed and purged from the voter roll?
Well, not knowing where you live, and it really doesn't
I think
matter.
ranking.
That I know. That's okay. Hop in your truck or your car, drive down to the circuit clerk's office, walk in and say, I'm here to ask you to look up my parents on the rolls and see if they have been properly purged from the rolls. It's that simple. So that would be the most direct way.
Yep.
But beyond that, there are any number of tools that are available on the internet that will allow you to look up and verify a voter is or is not on the rolls. One for something simple like that, well, no. I mean, there are too many for me to recommend any.
Yep.
Okay. They each have their own uniqueness and effectiveness, but that's a real simple thing. Walk into a circuit clerk's office in the county and just ask.
Yep.
And if they can't look it up in about 30 seconds, then elect a new circuit clerk. Okay. It's right there. It's called the Statewide Election Management Systems. It's right there on the computer in the clerk's office. And all they got to do is hit a few buttons and look for Andrew Gasser.
Yep.
And boom, it's going to tell them the last time Andrew voted. Matter of fact, if you voted in the last 20 elections, it's going to tell me you voted in all of those 20 elections. It'll say.
One caveat with that I'd like to add, Brother Allen, is that if you are living in Rankin County, but your deceased parents lived in Warren County, the Rankin County clerk cannot look up the voter roll in Warren County. That's my experience.
That is correct. So if that was the county they lived in, just go to Warren County.
Yep.
Call the Warren County clerk. You know, clerks, the good ones, most of the ones I know want to be helpful.
Yep.
You're not interrupting their day. You're not doing something silly here. You're making a good inquiry because you want to be sure that things have been processed properly, that your parents are off the rolls. Now, I will tell you about Warren County. Warren County is one of the brighter spots in the state of Mississippi. They have as good a record as anyone in keeping their rolls clean over there. Not to say they're perfect, and I can go in Warren County's records today on my computer with my Secretary of State's updated voter roll and show you anomalies. Now, the commission over there in Warren County might be able to look at any anomalies I give them and quickly sort through them, and some of them might be something, some of them might not. But Warren County does a damn good job.
Yep.
And we have a handful of counties in the state. And sometimes it's not even a matter of the commissioners wanting to do a good job. Sometimes it's they don't have the tools they need to get the job done.
That's scary to me, because the tools should be the master voter roll that they have direct link to. Is it just because they don't know how to actively go in there and search for what they need, or is it just more of a thing where
that's right?
You know how some people run for office and they get into an office and all of a sudden now they're they're the highway commissioner or they're the county board supervisor, and they now have a title, and so they feel empowered and it's my way, but they're not actually doing the job they need to do.
That's right. That's right. And again, people enter the office of election commissioner oftentimes with great intentions, and then they get into the office only to quickly find that they don't have what they need to do the job. They're reassured by fellow commissioners or clerks, so don't worry, we've got it covered. And their intellectual curiosity, if they had some, becomes muted, becomes dulled. And now all of a sudden they're going along to get along. They don't want to. I had a commissioner friend up in North Mississippi, very prosperous county, got elected, went in there and was ready to sit down at his computer and start
going
maintaining voter rolls.
Yep.
only to find out the commission didn't have any computers. They didn't have any desks to put them on. They didn't have an office. They didn't have a budget. They had no supplies. Why? Well, because the clerk's been taking care of it, and the commissioners who were there were, I hate to
Man.
call them brain dead, but they were they if they had an intellectual curiosity, they lost it years ago. And so this newly elected commissioner friend fought a battle. And now that county, less than 20 months later, has computers, place to put them, a deputy clerk who was the impediment all along resigned in the face of this assault.
Mhm.
The current clerk, the elected circuit clerk,
Uh-huh.
is going along somewhat reluctantly, but understanding that they better get the you know what out of the way.
Yep.
Because they've got at least one, maybe even two people now on this commission who understand their authority. They're elected public officials
Mhm.
entrusted with one of our most sacred things, which is our vote. And this particular commissioner friend of mine is determined to change the whole dynamic in that county, and he has. Okay, but he's still having to roll this boulder up the hill. You know, I'd like to see him get to the top where it'll roll down the other side and gather momentum.
Yep.
But he's still pushing the boulder up the hill, just trying to get to a reasonable equilibrium. And if he can get there, then again, from once there, the downhill side, there's so many ways to clean up the rolls.
Mhm.
But again, I'm going to go back to the Secretary of State. Secretary of State will tell you, oh, Mr. Ramsey, I can't take anyone off the voter rolls. Only a commissioner can do that.
Yep.
And I would respond, well, of course, only a commissioner can do that, and rightfully so. But you have the position, the platform, and the resources to help these people know their job and do their job and make known to the public what's necessary. So if it needs legislative support, Secretary of State needs to be in there working his butt off to get the support that he needs to get to the people, not just, oh, well, I can't do anything. It's BS. Okay.
Yep. Well,
So-
let me just say something right there with these election commissioners. These are, aren't they normally in the same district as the county supervisors?
Every counties all have 5 districts.
Yep.
Each supervisor, there is a commissioner representing each district.
Yep. That's what I wanted
And
to know.
typically, a supervisor will, every now and again, you'll get a contested election for a commissioner position, but usually the supervisor's looking for somebody who's willing to take the position.
Mhm.
And if Andrew Gasser says, well, sure, I'll do it, then, you know, he's going to put that supervisor is going to promote you in an election for that job. This is not a competitive race thing, except in a few areas. Okay.
Yep.
Overwhelmingly, it's a retirement program for people who looking for something to it's and listen, I don't want to diss election commissioners. We got some great people out there, but we need to weed them out. Term limits. Think term limits. Think people who have a skill set to do what you're asking them to do. Don't elect anybody to any office because you like them.
Are they going to do the job?
You don't have to like anybody. Okay. If I'm laying on the ground having a heart attack, I don't care. I want the guy leaning over me. He can be the world's worst, you know what. I just want to be sure he's the most qualified person to deal with my heart attack.
Yep.
I don't need a goody two shoes with good intentions.
Yep. And that's the thing that really I harp on a lot. I harp more on school boards than election commissioners, but the argument can be made, the same argument can be made for both of them. You know, when you have local people who are actively involved doing the job that they're supposed to do, you get real results. Look, we already got to take our next commercial break, Brother Allen. You are tuned into the Andrew Gosser Show on 103.9 WYAB. We'll be right back. Oh, yeah. Welcome back to the Andrew Gosser Show. I'm here with Alan Ramsey, and we are just talking about election fraud, voter fraud, Mississippi, our election commissioners, how important they are. We haven't really talked about the Save America Act.
Let's talk about Save You. Can I hold forth on that one for a moment?
Yep.
All right. The Save America Act is nothing more than a little bit of common sense election reform.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to think that this is reform that's gotten so far out of line that we have to call the Save America Act. Photo ID. This is 85% of the American public want a photo ID. Citizenship. There should be no question on being able to prove you're a citizen to vote. I mean, this is our most sacred right. You have to prove you're a citizen for 100 other things. So the Save America Act is common sense, but the people who have conspired over the decades to manipulate and pervert the election system don't want the Save Act, because then they won't be able to manipulate and pervert the system.
Well, let me ask you this, because Mississippi is a Republican plus 12 state at a minimum. Some
Right.
people would say it's more like 15 or 16. Why do you think that Senator Wicker and Senator Hyde-Smith aren't coming out and publicly supporting it? They're quote unquote co-sponsors, and that's what the staffers will call you when. What's going on with that?
Well, it's BS. Listen, and again, with all deference to the honorables Wicker and the honorable Cindy Hyde-Smith, they are as quiet as church mice on any controversial topics and always have been. Okay. They should be out there pounding the podium in the Senate, demanding Speaker Thune bring this thing up.
Leader
But
Thune,
they're
Leader Thune.
too, huh?
Leader Thune, not Speaker.
Leader Thune.
I
I'm
gotta be-
sorry.
I get-
You're right. Leader Thune.
Yeah.
But they should be pounding the table talking about this. Okay. Because Roger Wicker is no small player in the Senate.
He's huge.
He's huge. Cindy, she's a whole lot less of a player. She hadn't been there all that long. She's just a good lady who pretty much goes along to get along, from what I see. I don't want to criticize her, but I've sure got no accolades for her. I'm not, if she get up there and pound the podium,
Yep.
then you would see me clapping loudly for Cindy Hyde-Smith. Okay. Roger Wicker, on the other hand, Roger is a part of the problem that we've got in Washington. He's a career politician. He's been there for decades. He's not looking out for America first. He's not looking out for me and you. He's looking out for himself and the special interests that keep him where he is. And they write the bills. They put money in his campaign chest, and pretty much if he can get away with it, he signs them, because he knows that that's good for him and his future campaigns. So Senator Wicker, or Senator Wicker's representative, if you're listening, please tell the senator what I said. Please have him call me any day. I'll get on any stage here in the state of Mississippi and debate Roger Wicker on most topics, certainly election integrity and America first.
That's what I want to talk about, because he's a big America first guy. He says that.
But what is he doing about it?
I'll tell you what he's doing about it. He's the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He brings in a ton of defense contracting money into our state.
Correct.
And he sits there and he's basically pushing the buttons on where the defense appropriations goes in the Senate. And then, of course, it goes to conference with the House, and that's where the sausage gets made. And so I do not understand, as a constituent of Senator Wicker, why, number one, he isn't behind this. This makes no sense. I mean, is it because in order for us to get certain defense contracts, we got to go this way? And what really bothers me too is any senator, I don't care whether they're Republican or Democrat, these people who wear these dual flag pins.
Oh, God.
America, Israel, America, Ukraine, America, whoever. No, we're just Americans. And I think that's part of the problem that our kids don't see, and why we're getting a lot of these young skulls full of mush, not being able to actively, deductively reason, because they're so confused and they're being pushed a bunch of propaganda that they don't need to know, and the stuff that they do need to know, like how you get on the voter roll, how you take people off the voter roll legally. I want to say, we don't want to just sit there and do a massive hack job. We can go in there and We're like the United States Air Force or United States Navy. We got precision guided munitions where we can go in and tactically go in and go line by line quickly and figure out whether they need to be there or not be there.
Yeah, well, I don't know how to respond to your thing about Wicker. Wicker is a swamp creature. Okay, and we could spend days talking about what motivates swamp creatures and why this and why that. Okay, I don't have time to revisit all that. I see Roger as a swamp creature. He needs to be gone. We need somebody in that position who is America first, who's Mississippi first, but he's America first. You've got to be America first. You can't just be Mississippi first, because what they do in the Senate is they're looking out for everybody. Okay. Oh, I'm tickled that he's bringing home contracts for Ingalls or Raytheon or the Stennis Space Center. That's great. That's good. But these have to be done for the right reasons, not the wrong ones. And that doesn't make they're common sense decisions.
Yep.
And, Wicker needs to be pounding the table right now, Save America. He needs to be up in Leader Thune's face saying, John, we've got to pass this SAVE Act. John, we need to eliminate this filibuster. Roger's famous comment on filibuster, nuking the filibuster, is, oh, well, that looks good in a movie. It works out well, but it doesn't work so well in reality. Why not? Why not?
What's really bothering me is they can hook on the Save America Act into one of these appropriations bills where the Save America Act funds all these states' election commissions and everything. Totally legitimate. And they won't do it.
But that we have to do it that way is what's wrong, Andrew.
Oh,
that we
I'm not
have to
arguing
use
that.
subterfuge and backdoor procedures, because all of those get derailed at the last minute. It's going good, and then all of a sudden this guy withholds a vote because of some little BS in the background. Somebody bought him off, or he's got some, just like Murkowski. Murkowski's up there worried that there are a few villages out in the rural areas of Alaska where people would be disenfranchised through the Save America Act because they don't have a driver's license bureau or an ID bureau they can walk into and quickly validate themselves as to be an American citizen. Well, Senator Murkowski, I was in Alaska 50 years ago. I spent 3 years up there.
Woo.
And that was 50 years ago. And I would dare say there's not an Alaskan in the state of Alaska who can't reasonably straightforwardly come up with the ID and the verification they need to satisfy the Save America Act. These people are not pygmies down in the Amazon who only get seen every 20 years. There's technology, there's flights in and out of there daily.
Yep.
There's all this. Murkowski's is BS. Okay. Plain BS.
I say that not only about Lisa Murkowski, but I say that about Senator Slotkin, from Michigan, who
That's
said
right.
she wouldn't. Democrats can't win without the Save America Act not being passed. If the Save America Act gets passed, they're going to have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And that's what irritates me so much. 86% of all Americans, 76% of all African Americans want voter ID.
Of course.
And when I can sit there and I can thump the senators and I can thump the congressmen, I could thump the president, but I don't see any value out of that when we are so close to getting this passed, where if we just came together and said we need to get this done, we could. But it's ridiculous. And I don't know if you've followed what they're trying to do now about getting rid of the electoral college vote. They're actually, that is like the most stupid thing to me inside of Mississippi, because if that actually happens, you'll never have another meaningful race nationally inside the state of Mississippi.
You won't have a meaningful race anywhere. Not just the state of Mississippi. Listen, behind a lot of this are very powerful influences outside of our country. You call them globalists, call them what you want. CCP is a big player.
Yep.
Soros, anybody who's looking to stir the pot in the United States understands our weakness. Our weakness is that we're good people overall who want to do the right thing, and then they come in and make it so hard to understand what that right thing is that some of us don't even know the difference between a man and a woman anymore. Okay.
We've got a Supreme Court justice. I got to cut you off right there, but we've got a Supreme Court justice who can't answer under oath what a woman is.
That's right. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. And here's the thing about this administration, this president, he's saying enough's enough.
Yep, that's a fact. Look, that is Brother Allen. I am Andrew Gosser. You are listening to WYAB. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks for everybody tuning in and listening on the stream. Really appreciate it. And I know that a couple people tried to call in, but it just didn't work out. But we'll go again tomorrow. Tomorrow will be better. One thing we do not do on the Andrew Gosser Show is we do not fear the Reaper. Yes, you're listening to 103.9 WYAB. I'm here with Brother Alan Ramsey, and we got about a minute and a half, brother.
Oh, okay. Listen, again, do something, America. That's what I want people to hear. I don't care who you are. You can be a shut-in at home on fixed income. There's a role in this for everyone out there. You don't have to do what I do. You don't have to do what Andrew does. You don't have to do what our president does. But you've got to do more than just listen and nod your head and hope things are going to get better. You've got to contribute, whether it's $5 a month, whether it's 5 minutes a week, whatever it is. Do something. If you want to put it in the Lord's hands, well, I would tell you that the Lord put you here to deal with the everyday problems, not him. When in the musical introduction on my show that I used to do called Do Something America, it was what's his name, Matthew West, and it was his song. I saw what was wrong in the world. I reached out, Lord, where are you? He said, hey, I put you here to do that. That was the gist of the song. Okay, that's why I made you. You got to deal with everyday things.
I think it's also something that it's harder to do in American society is take personal responsibility for your civic decisions. Nobody wants to spend the time researching the candidates, researching the issues. What they do is they go to they either identify red or blue. Okay, I'm not saying that, and then they just follow the track. And you're seeing that actually start to happen in the Democrats, where you got the Democrats and the Democrat Socialists of America, and it's ripping the parties apart. And the thing about it is that if we continue to go down that path, what's going to happen is you're going to have New York happen, and Seattle happen, and Chicago happen, where these major mega metropolises and these incubators for revenue for the state and for the country, they're absolutely destroyed. I mean, go look at New York; it's horrible, and it's coming. I have like a whole bunch of stuff I'm going to talk about the DSA. Brother Rick will be on tomorrow with me, and we'll talk about that and oil. But I wanted to get you on here, brother, and I'm very grateful for you. You've been a great friend to me. And I wanted to get on there and talk about this election integrity stuff because we can do something about it right here in Mississippi. And we didn't even talk about it, but, the Mississippi GOP tried to get this to the Supreme Court to end this mail-in balloting, and we got shanghaied at the last minute, and that was a Hinds County GOP project. So I wanted to say that be a part of the process, just like Alan's saying, be part of the process. Dude, I'll give you the last minute here in a minute 30 seconds.
Yeah, be part of it, guys. I appreciate that you're listening to Andrew and I today, but don't just be a listener. Don't sit on the sidelines. At the very least, talk it over with your neighbor. Say, hey, neighbor, how can we change things? What might we do here in our neighborhood? What might we do at the precinct level? Could I be a poll watcher, a poll worker? There's so many ways to participate. I don't want you out of your comfort zone, but you do need to be a little uncomfortable, at least initially, doing something. Because once you do it, then you're going to probably want to take the next step.
Yep.
Courage begets courage. You know what I mean? You see somebody stand up, you'll walk up and get behind them.
Yep.
But it's that first guy got to get in front and do the right thing, and then motivate that person next to him. And it's an amazing synergy that develops once you start doing something.
When I was going through officer training school, they described me as the guy who would sit there and throw his body on the barbed wire fence and everybody would run over your back. And it does hurt, the person.
It does hurt.
But after that, it's not so bad. And the next thing you know, hey, I got to go do this again.
Yeah.
And you start building up courage and you start building up the experience. And look, you're not out there to be the next president of the United States, but it sure would be nice if you were election commissioner. It sure would be nice if you were a precinct delegate. I'll tell you that. It'd be nice if you showed up to the different events that we have when we do have events. Be that person on their street that's going to be the one that everybody goes to when it's time to get the political information, the civic information. Right. Brother Alan, this was awesome. I'm so grateful and thankful for you. We'll have to have you back again sometime soon.
Always my pleasure. WYAB is a great place to come to understand topics that are going on in the world.